Hello and welcome to the Emerging Tech Show with me, Sohan Maheshwar. So, this is the final stream of this year because I'll be taking a break for the holidays. And of course, if you haven't been on this show before, we talk about tomorrow's technology today. And today I thought we'll do something slightly different and actually do a retrospective of 2020 and talk about some of the best tech stories and some of the worst tech stories of 2020. It was a strange year to say the least, and a lot happened in the tech world as well. So, we're going to talk about some of the best and worst of technology in 2020. A lot of these things that we're going to speak about has a lot of emerging tech slant, if not something that's purely straight up emerging tech. So, I'm going to start off with the worst. And if I miss something, please do let me know in the chat. I'm 100% sure someone's like, hey, you missed this, or hey, this deserved to be fourth and not second. All of that is welcome in the chat, by the way. So let's talk about the worst or the tech fails in 2020. Starting off with number 5, with the great Twitter hack of 2020. Now, I'm sure all of us, including myself, we witnessed this unfold live and we were like, what the hell is happening? Is this like viral marketing for some movie that's just gone way too far? And honestly, it was weird because, no movies were releasing. This was strange. If you missed this, essentially a whole bunch of verified profiles on Twitter, and I'm not talking random influencers, but even people like Bill Gates and Jeff B, Apple, Kanye West, Elon Musk, Barack Obama, posted this very, very weird tweet asking people to deposit Bitcoin into a particular address and saying they'll give back double the amount. Classic. Earlier our generation faced it from Nigerian princes. Now everyone in Silicon Valley is doing it. So this happened in July and it targeted a lot of verified accounts. Now, this was strange for a bunch of reasons. It wasn't one profile that was hacked or someone who was careless, but it was a lot of major people in the world, followed by millions, that were all hacked at the same time in something that was coordinated. So, definitely something to worry about. Few interesting things happened. One is they tried hacking President Donald Trump, or maybe ex-president Donald Trump's Twitter account, but Twitter had intentionally set checks and balances so that there were like multiple layers of authentication, so they couldn't access his account. The other strange thing is that the hackers actually used social engineering and targeted employees of Twitter, who surprisingly had access to all of these accounts. The third weird thing is that after all of this, it was a very small amount of money that was actually, taken to this account. It was just about 320 transactions and a value of about $110,000, which honestly, if you think about it, isn't that much. Crazy thing is the Department of Justice actually arrested 3 people for this, including a teenager in the UK, this 19-year-old kid. Really strange. Twitter claims that they have, put in more checks in their internal systems to make sure something like this never happens again, but who knows. Again, that was number 5 on the tech fail of 2020. Moving on to tech fail number 4. This crazy concept of folding phones. Honestly, I don't know why, but I have a feeling people just got bored and really wanted to disrupt the phone market. Some product managers like, come on, enough of just making the phone either bigger or smaller. Let's do something different. Honestly, Samsung, Motorola, Huawei, what were you guys thinking? Because these devices cost a lot, so people aren't going to put in that money. They're based on hinges which are going to break easily, and the screen technology is really fragile. And people who got this, who used it just for a couple of days, reported cracks and weird glitches on the screen. Even on paper, this honestly doesn't sound like a great idea. I know clamshell phones were the rage back in the day, and I love those phones mainly because if you're angry, you can actually slam those phones, down and like put it in your pocket, which you can't quite do with your iPhone right now. I mean, you can slam it, of course, but you will destroy your phone. So folding phones were a fad very, very briefly, late 2019, early 2020. Most people have written it off, but Samsung is still fairly bullish on this, and they're saying that they'll release more models with better tech with folding phones. So, who knows? Maybe I'll be doing an episode on folding phones and why I was wrong, and making a crying influencer apology video sometime in 2021. Who knows what the future holds for us? Okay, so that was number 4 on the list of tech fails from 2020. Let's see what's number 3 in the list, and it is Quibi. So again, Quibi was this r slash confidently incorrect, as Prashant was saying earlier, where a bunch of rich white people basically said, hey, we can do tech as well. So people like Hollywood power player Jeffrey Katzenberg, who's the K in DreamWorks SKG, as well as ex-CEO of HP, Meg Whitman, decided to put in billions of dollars in short form but well-produced content that people would apparently pay for. So they came up with Quibi, and they threw tons of money at like these young, cool, hip creators in LA, and they expected audiences to pay $5 a month for content that was optimized for your phone. So it would be in vertical and it would be short, etc. The rise to the top was insane. Everyone was talking about it for the first month or so, and the fall was equally quick and swift. Because honestly, people didn't want to pay $5 for this. People watch this on Snapchat and TikTok and YouTube for free. But of course, you're paying for their data, but let's not talk about that. But whatever. So this completely failed. To be clear though, I actually think there was a lot of good ideas in Quibi, and I really think that in the future, a new platform or even a Netflix or a Disney Plus will try something where they will optimize for mobile, for vertical viewing, and even some of the ideas that Quibi had. Like for instance, I don't know if they actually launched it, but there was this pitch for a horror movie that people could actually watch only at night when it's dark. So having these more engaging sort of immersive experiences on your phone. I 100% think someone's going to do this in the future and do it well. Unfortunately, this wasn't Quibi. So, well, too bad, Quibi. Poor thing, Jeffrey Katzenberg only has few $100 million remaining. It's fine. He'll manage. Okay, so that was number 3 in our list of tech fails in 2020. At number 2 is something that has been hyped for the last 8 years and maybe deserves a rewind in a few years to come. But number 2 on our list is Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, that's right. If you're not aware of this, back in 2012, this Polish company called Project Red said that they're making this hyper-futuristic, realistic, immersive world, open environment game called Cyberpunk 2077. People, of course, were excited. Project Red makes the successful Witcher series of games. And in the last 8 years, they've really hyped it up. They've got Keanu Reeves on board. They showed us demos of these amazing footage and like really cool machinery. And as you can see this image, in 2018, someone actually asked the makers of the game saying, will there be memes in the game? And they actually funnily replied saying the whole game is going to be a meme, which after its release turned out to be true. So what happened was this was a very ambitious game and still is a very ambitious game. And unfortunately, it just wasn't ready. And they claimed many times that they were ready. There were a lot of delays. And there were some pre-game controversies too, but we'll skip past that for now. Earlier in the year, because of COVID, they said it will be delayed again because they couldn't, they had to work remotely. It caused significant delays, blah, blah, blah. Finally, thanks to pressure from people and studios and investors, they launched the game. The game did have few glitches, and which is sort of expected, but unfortunately, people realized that the game was straight up unplayable. There were glitches like tiny trees covering the roofs of, or rather the floors of buildings. There were tanks falling from the sky. And of course, my favorite and something that went viral is this, and I'm just going to play a quick video. And honestly, if this doesn't become a meme or a TikTok trend, I lose faith with the youngsters today. So this guy, he stands on his bike and he loses his pants because, that's what you apparently do in the future. And a lot of users actually saw this bug where they'd be walking and suddenly their character would just stand in a T and they'd lose their pants. Really don't know what's happening there. So it's so bad that Sony is actually giving refunds to people who have applied for it on, the PlayStation Store. So it's been a bit of a damn squib. A lot of articles. Again, there's an entire YouTube channel dedicated to fails from the game. Makes for entertaining viewing, but it is quite sad to see because of what could have been. Hoping that the patches that they launch for the game, actually make it better and it's actually playable and, worth all of that hype. Okay. Finally, we have come to the biggest tech fail of 2020, and that is emails that start with "in these challenging times." Seriously, guys, stop it. Stop that right now. I've received tons of emails that say, in these unprecedented times, and I want you to stop it right now. I'm joking, of course, that's not the biggest tech fail, but please seriously stop it. The biggest tech fail for me, and I can already hear people saying, okay, boomer to me, was honestly social media. In 2020, social media was a bit of a dumpster fire because if I understood this correctly, Bill Gates wanted to set up a 5G network which caused COVID 19 all around the world. Is that it? Yeah, like honestly, social media was quite a drag in 2020. There was a lot of fake news. There was racism, sexism, bigotry, etc. Not just from people sort of behaving badly, but agencies and companies and dedicated plans set up to do this misinformation, to incite race wars, to incite sexism, and this is just a pain. In fact, there were hundreds of private Facebook groups called Justice for George Floyd, the man who was murdered, which led to the Black Lives Matter protests. And turns out those were actually by, I don't know what the right word is, but they were actually inciting more racial tensions more than anything else, and they were meant to do that. Let's not even get into QAnon, misinformation on WhatsApp, especially in India, and so on. Now, this is a really, really complicated issue. And I'm sure you're telling me, hey, this has been bad ever since whenever, but I think specifically in 2020, it got really bad. Honestly, this is a very, very complicated issue, not something that I'm very, I think, qualified to speak about, on how to change it. But I frequently talk on this show about how science fiction predicted a lot of the emerging tech that we're using now and will be using in the future. Everything from drones to self-driving cars and, voice-controlled interfaces and so on. Social media in its current form wasn't predicted by mainstream science fiction, which is crazy if you think about it. And, I have to give credit to my friend Sai for sort of having this discussion and, bringing this topic up, that no science fiction actually predicted this type of social media where all of this is possible. So in a way, we're not sort of prepared to handle a lot of the policy, a lot of psychology, and generally how to deal with social media right now. In a way, I think the companies can do better. I think the platforms should do slightly better. When you sort of bias towards algorithms that tend towards higher engagement, this is what will happen. You will have some disinformation and so on. I know that platforms are trying right now, and we'll get back to that later on today, but I really think that in 2020, social media could have been a lot better. So it tops my list of tech fails in 2020.